I thank the member for Warrawa. The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I give the call to the Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It does give me great pleasure to speak on behalf of Gippslanders in relation to the ministerial statement on the 100th anniversary of the landing of Gallipoli. Deputy Speaker, 1 month ago I was in Afghanistan and other parts of the Middle East in my role as the Parliamentary Secretary for Defence and participating in the Australian Defence Force parliamentary program. And there are walls at the Australian headquarters in Kabul and also at other bases in the Middle East which carry the photographs of the 43 Australians who have died on deployment to the region over the past decade. They join the 102,000 other Australian servicemen and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice throughout our nation's history. Even today, as the Parliament commemorates the centenary of Anzac, Australian and New Zealand forces are standing side by side in Baghdad, in Kabul and the skies above the Middle East, working together again, this time to train and support local forces in the fight against Daesh and the Taliban. So as we pause to remember the original Anzacs on this occasion, I urge everyone listening today throughout Australia to also remember our modern-day warriors and peacekeepers, the young men and women who have been drawn together from all corners of Australia and New Zealand once again to serve our nations. As we tuck ourselves into bed at night, safe in the knowledge that no harm will come to our families, spare a thought and a prayer, if you're so inclined, for almost 2,000 Australians currently serving on deployments throughout the world in places like Kabul, Kandahar and Baghdad. In places where the summer temperature is about to scorch past 45 degrees and winter temperatures will plummet below freezing, some will be sleeping in tents, others in prefabricated huts or dormitories with bunks and precious little privacy. But regardless of where they sleep, Deputy Speaker, they'll be away from their families and their loved ones. So pray for their safety, pray for the people they're trying to protect, pray that their missions are completed successfully and they return as soon as possible to the arms of those they love. When I was in Kabul, Deputy Speaker, I thanked the troops on behalf of the government and on behalf of the people of Gippsland and told them that we were proud of them, that we supported them and we wish them well in their mission. I recalled the comments from the former member for Bradfield and former leader of the Liberal Party in this place, who is now the chairman of the Australian War Memorial, Brendan Nelson, who said in this place several years ago that there was no greater service that anyone can give to Australia than to put on the uniform of the nation they love and place themselves in harm's way to help those who cannot help themselves. Deputy Speaker, that was true in 1915 and it's true in 2015. We don't seek to glorify war as we commemorate the sacrifice and the extraordinary service of so many young Australian men and women along with our New Zealand allies. I wrote this speech, Deputy Speaker, on board an Australian C-130 high above the mountains and valleys of Afghanistan, where many of those 43 young Australian men and women lost their lives. And I used a fair bit of its content in my Anzac Day address at the Sale Memorial Hall on Anzac Day this year, and there was a huge crowd, as others have reflected. There's a huge crowd to commemorate Anzac Day this year at events right throughout Australia. In my electorate in Traralgon, the dawn service had several thousand people attending. At Sale itself, there was a couple of thousand. In Tyres, a small community, more than 500 people attended. And when I was flying above Afghanistan, I looked around at the young faces on that plane, and I couldn't help but think about those other young faces on the walls in the headquarters in Kabul. And they were all someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother, someone's husband, someone's boyfriend. We can never bring them back, but I believe that we can honour them and make sure they're never forgotten. I told the gathering in my electorate on that day that we can't fulfil the promise of their young lives cut short, but we can honour them in the way we choose to live our lives. And I think we need to regularly think about that. Think about what others have given us and have allowed us to do and enjoy the freedoms and safety we enjoy today. I think our tribute to the fallen, to the original Anzacs and to the 102,000 people killed in countless conflicts is the manner in which we live today. Our world is being challenged by people who would seek to do us harm. The enduring values that the Anzacs demonstrated and fought to protect are as important today as ever before. It's our commitment to peace and freedom and fairness, a determination to protect the innocent, the courage and the adventurous spirit to travel to far-off lands and help others, the bonds of mateship and camaraderie to stand together in hard times, and perhaps most importantly, the resilience, the perseverance and the dedication to duty. These are all eternal values and personal attributes that our nation needs from us today. So that's what Anzac Day means to me. Deputy Speaker, I take it as a personal challenge to ask myself, am I worthy of that sacrifice that others have made? Am I honouring the people who have given so much and still serve our nation's Defence Force today? I think they've shown us the way, Deputy Speaker. It's up to us. We must commit ourselves to respecting their enduring legacy. Deputy Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to reflect for a moment on the manner in which the Turkish people and its government honour and respect Australian soldiers killed and injured in the Gallipoli campaign. Recently I had the great pleasure and the privilege to visit Turkey to represent the Minister for Defence at a defence industry fair in Istanbul. And at the conclusion of the official duties, we travelled with the Defence Attaché for Turkey, Colonel Jim Burns, to Gallipoli, or the Çanakkale campaign as it's known in Turkey. Now, as Australians, we understand that Gallipoli remains at the heart of our own national story, but we perhaps don't often reflect on how this pivotal event is critical to Turkey's struggles, particularly in the early part of the 20th century. Now, at Gallipoli, the immortal words of Mustafa Ataturk are recorded, and I paraphrase it, but he said in 1934, "You, the mothers who sent their sons from faraway countries, wipe away your tears. Your sons are now lying in our bosom and are in peace after having lost their lives on this land. They have become our sons as well." That is a remarkable statement from the leader of the Turkish government at the time. They have become our sons as well. It's an extraordinary statement. It's respectful, it's insightful, it's empathetic, it's dignified, and I think it's a sign of great leadership, and it helps to explain the relationship we enjoy today with our friends in Turkey. We do have an active friendship and engagement which culminates for most Australians each year, and most visibly perhaps with the Anzac Day service at Anzac Cove. But the generosity of spirit and the respect shown by Turkey to allow such commemorative events on their homeland to support such activities, I believe, speaks volumes of the relationship today but also throughout history. And I couldn't help but wonder as I walked the battlefield whether we would be equally as generous ourselves if we had been on the other side of the invasion. And I just simply thank and congratulate the Turkish people for the honour they bestow upon us each year. I thank the Turkish people for extending such remarkable courtesies to Australians and New Zealanders and people of other countries who visit what is a sacred site for Australian people, given particularly the enormous losses suffered by the Turks in that conflict. On our visit to Anzac Cove, I guess like many before and many more to come, I was struck by the beauty of the peninsula, the magnitude of the battles which occurred, the severity of the losses on both sides, and the hopeless futility of it all. Under Colonel Burns's guidance, expert guidance in fact, we paid our respects at places I'd only ever read about, like North Beach, B Point or Aribunu, Anzac Cove, Hellspit, Shrapnel Valley, Brighton Beach, so named because it looks just like the Mornington Peninsula, Artillery Road, Johnston's Jolly, Quinn's Post, Walker's Ridge, Lone Pine and the Neck. And we were walking the ground where so many lives were lost, and it is such a sombre and sobering moment for any visitor. Colonel Burns, I extend my appreciation and thanks as a guide for the educational, informative lessons he provided, if you like, as he took us amongst the trenches and explained to us just the extent of tunnelling which occurred, which is something that I hadn't really understood, how much tunnelling activity occurred during this conflict. And gave us some insights into what it must have been like 100 years ago. The graves, the Commonwealth War graves that are maintained on the peninsula are quite beautiful locations in many respects. We were very fortunate. We were there on a quiet day. It was well after the centenary events had occurred, and at most of the grave sites we attended, we were the only people there. But you could hear the birds. You could hear on some of the waterfront grave sites, the gentle lapping of waves. It was a peaceful resting place. So, Deputy Speaker, I can report to the House, I guess, that the Australians who lost their lives lie on hallowed ground and are respected by the Turks, just as we respect our foes. Deputy Speaker, so as we gather here to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the land in Gallipoli, we must be forever thankful for the service and remember all those who were killed and injured in this conflict, and also remember all those who have been killed in battles since that day. Yeah. But most of all, Deputy Speaker, I plead with the Australian people, with members of this place, to remember those who continue to serve today. They've all earned the respect and the enduring gratitude of an island nation, lest we forget.
I thank the Parliamentary Secretary.